Thank you for joining us. Today we are missing our sound technician. The beautiful Sharon Wright is not with us. So therefore, I'm the one botching the sound this morning. So we're going to re-edit that. So we fix that. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm your host, Patty Maria McGee, and I'd like you to meet our co-host this morning, Dr. Noelle Mubaira. She's joining us from Wilmington, Delaware. She is an author. She is an ambassador to the UN. She is a peace ambassador to the UN. And our co-host, Dr. Margaret Norris, is here all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. She is an educator, an author, a committed AKA, and she's out there working on getting out the vote in Georgia.
Yeah.
And she made a special arrangement to get here on time this morning because she had another meeting. And then I'd like to introduce you to our guest this morning, Dr. Are you Dr. Marla Matime?
No, I'm not a doctor, but I receive it. It's probably in my future.
We'd like to thank you for joining us today. Marla is an activist. She is a artist. She is a sister, and she is in Riverside, California. While her name is spelled Matime, it is pronounced Matine. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Sure. And thank you so much for having me on your show. This is truly an honor to be here with you, beautiful ladies. Um, so my name is Marla Matime, and Matime derives from France. My husband is French, and the meaning behind it is belle. So I it's interesting because in names, names have meanings and they carry a vibration. And my first name, Marla, if you rearrange the letters, it spells alarm. So I'm here to spread and ring the alarms, okay?
So, Marla, my guests, my guest hosts, well, actually, they're my hosts, my co-hosts. Um, they have some questions. They reviewed your bio. Of course, I've met you on a couple of occasions and had the pleasure of working with you.
Mhm.
Uh, but my co-hosts have some questions. But first, can you just give us a little bit more background about who you are and what you do and how our paths happened to cross?
Yes. So I'm originally from Arkansas, Jacksonville, Arkansas, and I moved to Southern California about 13 years ago. My husband and I got married out here and started our family. And about 4.5, 5 years ago, I began working with a local publication called the Black Voice News. And through that, I started working in the political sphere. And my background is in communications with the emphasis in journalism. And so my dream job was to be a reporter initially, and then eventually go into maybe, becoming a political analyst or a legal analyst for a major network. But my path has taken me on an unconventional journey, and I'm meeting so many different people of many walks of life, backgrounds, and it's just been very interesting. And I'm truly humbled and blessed to be a part of a lot of different opportunities. So I work as a consultant for the League of California Cities African American Caucus, and I do several other public affairs and marketing advertising projects. So those are just a few things. I also sing, so I do a little bit of background here and there for some clients who needs help with their projects, and I do a lot of admin type of work. And as a Black woman growing in this space is very interesting because it's not a lot of Black women in advertising. And so I just want to make a stamp in the world with my gifts and my talents and share the things that I know that God has blessed me with.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I have a bachelor's degree in advertising.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah, and my master's is in mass communication and journalism. So I didn't know we had that in common, but I love that. Well,
That's
now
why I think that's why we connected immediately.
that vibe was it was so, and thank you for being so supportive of, you came to our Goddesses in Government event
Yes.
for National Women's History Month, and that was awesome. So tell us a little bit more about your artistry, your work as an artist, your spiritual work. I understand you have a podcast because you tried to help me with this. Talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you. So I started a podcast called The Meta Spiritualist, and I thought to take my journalism hat, my love for communication and storytelling, and merge it with my love for God, the universe and everything that we're made up of. And I came up with the name back in early 2018, but I sat on it. I was very apprehensive about, okay, will it be well received? Is this something that people really want to talk about? And one of the things that I've noticed, especially in social media, is that since the pandemic, really, people have really opened up to spirituality, especially our people, like going back to our ancestors and how they used to worship the creator of the world and the creator of the universe. And so I think that it's very important that we find the common thread between religion and spirituality. And it's not much different because everyone is really looking for a way to have hope and believe and have faith that things are going to work out for their good. People are hurting. And so having a conversation about their spiritual walk, their spiritual journey, things that have brought them to a place of awakening or enlightenment, I think is very important because there's people out there who are going through very tough times and they can't see the silver lining. And so people who've already been through it, it's important for us to share so that we can help other people through those dark times. Especially now with going through a pandemic, suicide rates are at an all-time high. Depression is at an all-time high, other mental health issues. And I think spirituality has helped a lot of people to combat those dark, deep, heavy, burden-filled emotions. So the Meta Spiritualist is a non-biased, non-judgmental platform so that people can share their journey and hopefully help someone else on theirs.
Awesome. Now, Dr. Norris, and I should also mention Dr. Mubaira is my cousin, and and we met during our own DNA journeys.
Wow.
And they've both written books, and I believe that both of them have a spiritual side, knowing them. And so, Dr. Norris, can you let Marla know what your questions are? I know we talked a little bit yesterday.
Sure, sure. And excuse me, good morning. I'm going to just go ahead and say, Dr. Marla, I'm claiming it for you. And I'll tell you why. When I look at your bio and I see the kaleidoscope of experiences that you have and now meeting you, I know that that is going to come to fruition. My question for you, and my hat's off to you, first of all, and
Thank you.
thank you, really, thank you for not just being multi-talented, but recognizing the gifts that you have, the many gifts that you have, and they are truly blessings. So my question is this: you speak about hope, and yes, Patty is correct. I am very spiritually grounded. And I think about, my question is, how do you, Dr. Marla, envision utilizing some of the tools and skills that you have in marketing, in journalism, in team building to infuse hope into communities where, as recently as last week, we have the tragedy of Buffalo? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was heavy on my heart as we were approaching today's podcast. And I said, we have to pay homage to those elders and the young people whose lives were taken like that, um, only because they were trying to go about their daily business. How do you envision utilizing some of your talents and gifts to infuse communities with hope in the midst of despair?
Oh, that is a really heavy question. Thank you so much. I really think that, you know, we can't control the acts of people who are not pure in heart, right? And so incidents like that in Buffalo last week, and other incidents that's happened, even up until today, there was a local shooting in San Bernardino, right in the town next to me. I think that we just have to be there for people in their time of hurting and their grief, and allow them to grieve without shaming them, you know, because grief for many people, it lasts very long, right? But having the hope that there is going to be a better day and time for us. One of the things I've learned, I went through a spiritual course called The Self-Realization of a Goddess. And one of the things that I've learned is that before we come into this earthly plane, we've already signed a contract on how we're going to exit. We just don't know when that day is going to come, right? And so I think that if there's more good in the world than there is bad, and I don't think a lot of people are really, we're not coming together to really force the evil out, if that makes any sense. I think that we have to really come together and have conversations like this on platforms like this to just see how we can come together and make sure that we're aware of our surroundings. We're aware of, if someone looks suspicious, it's not nothing to say, you know, hey, can we check on that person? Or, hey, you know, I think that this person might be up to no good. Stigmatizing Black people, and I'll just say, like, a lot of Karens out there will call on Black people, and we're just out just trying to have a barbecue, right? But when it comes to our white brothers and sisters, and I won't even call them brothers and sisters, really, we're so hesitant to call out what we feel innately, that there's something that's about to happen. Somebody in that store felt what was about to happen, but they didn't speak up. And I think we need to speak up. You know, our intuition, our gut feeling, we catch those vibrations and those vibes with our surroundings by being aware. And I think we need to wake up and be aware of what's happening around us to prevent stuff like that. So that would be what I think we could hope for people to really tune into what their heart and what their gut is telling them, and help protect other people that are around us. You know, if you see something, say something, no matter the color of their skin.
And Dr.
Thank you.
Byra? Dr. Mubaira, do you have a question for our guest?
Yes,
You're on mute.
absolutely.
Okay, there we go.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
It's a pleasure to meet you virtually, at least.
Likewise.
Let me adjust my settings so that I can see you. Just a moment. I'm so sorry. I have.
Where's Sharon when you need her? Sharon, I know you're out there.
Sharon, we miss you, but we're working through. Thank you for your patience. I really am just inspired by your story. And I've seen some of your work in the Rolling Stone Council, that you are already on your way to being an author, I see. I am really just impressed with your range of skills and gifts.
Thank you.
We have the spirituality in common. I am a ordained minister. have had a performing arts and dance ministry over 25, going on almost 30 years now. Wow. So I would love to know what you think about the arts side of you. I really feel that's strong. In vocal, and it's always seems that in history, the artists sort of prophesy what is happening and what is going to happen. Think of Marvin Gaye, what's going on. Think of Nina Simone, Mississippi,
Strange Fruit,
and
Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday, right. You give me that vibe. So just talk to me a little bit about any projects you're thinking about doing or have done.
So in my early 20s, I signed a recording contract, and I was living in it. I moved to Atlanta from Cincinnati, and was there for about a year and 4 months. But in the first 6 months of me living there, I shared a home with 3 other young ladies. We were planning to take it nationwide, go on tours, and we recorded a full album. We took professional photos. We were looking good, okay? But it came to a halt when the person who put us together we found out he was not a great guy. And but my love for music has been since I was a child. My grandmother taught me how to play piano. She played in the church, my father's mother. And when my parents separated, I didn't have access to a piano. So that kind of left by the wayside, but I always continued to write. I love to write poetry. I really enjoy just putting my thoughts and my feelings on paper. And when I got to high school, my mother's mother passed, and she was a really strong proponent and supporter in my life on the music side, because, I would go to her house and practice my baritone and my trombone, and she didn't care how loud it was if I made a wrong note. And when she passed, my mother was in this grieving process, and we were in survival mode, and she was working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our head and food on the table. And so music was my outlet. It was my therapy. And I kind of went downhill after that, because it felt like I didn't have a strong support system to uplift me and encourage me. And I was seeking validation outside of myself for a very long time. And it wasn't until the last couple of years, really, that I feel that I've stepped into my power, and I've looked inward and done a lot of deep spiritual work in order to heal myself from the expectations of others, and that's not their responsibility to uplift me. It's my responsibility to encourage myself and uplift myself. And so the last several years, I've done some writing. I've been in the studio, but I've been sitting on the project, and I'm like, I got to get it out, because I feel that people need to hear songs of hope. They need to hear uplifting and high vibrational music, because the music of today in mainstream is very low vibrational. It's very toxic, and it keeps us in this cycle of competition and hate and jealousy and all of that stuff. And I think that it's enough room for people to really flourish if we support one another and we highlight each other and share those gifts and talents. Music is very important. It's very spiritual. Our ancestors, that's how they communicated, in multiple nations. They used drums, they used stringed instruments. It's in the Bible that there was stringed instruments and drums. And I think we have to tap back into that as a people. And it's better when there's more people that come together to create music. I love live music. So, because it's everyone doing their part to make something beautiful. I don't like working alone. So I really enjoy like going into the studio and working with other musicians and just being a part of that high vibration to spread love and joy to people.
I have to jump in
Beautiful.
here and ask you a quick
You know what, Dr.
question.
Norris, we were thinking the exact same thing.
Well, let me just say this. If you
Go
ever
ahead.
need a flute player, let me know.
Okay, absolutely. I wanted to do my birthday just passed on Sunday, and
Happy
I wanted
birthday.
to thank you. I wanted to do a live jam session. Just have some random folks come into the backyard with their instruments and somebody just start with a hi-hat and a drum kick and then if a guitar player come in and start playing something and then just create something just beautiful and unheard of. It when you're in that live zone, it does something to the spirit and it leaves you with so much optimism and it empowers you to go out and do what you're called to do, I feel.
You're so right. Do we have enough time, Patty, or how are we doing?
We're getting pretty close.
Okay.
I was going to mention, Marla, that Dr. Norris was previously the host of a call-in radio talk show called Street Soldiers. And one of the messages that they communicated over and over again was the impact of music on young people and the destructive nature of the lyrics and the misogyny and all. So, Dr. Norris, is that what you were about to mention?
Well, actually, no, but that's another really, really important point. What I was tuning into was when
No pun
you
intended.
mentioned yeah, right, when you mentioned about being in your own grief and the piano having been taken away from you, that there was a real dearth of feeling of hope and aspiration, and having been an educator for 100 years, looking at how the arts have been removed so, just across the board from schools. And I'm very sensitive to the school to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
I'd like for you to speak to how we can, as a people, rescue our young people who are in pain or who simply, for them, music is going to be that venue. The arts, whether it's visual expression on the stage, whatever it is, performing arts, how that can really be a viable tool to help save our youth.
Absolutely. So one of the local organizations out here in San Bernardino County is called Music Changing Lives. And if I would love to introduce y'all to Brother Josiah Bruni, because his story is so compelling. He was expelled out of his school in Pasadena, and no one in LAUSD would take him. So that's why they ended up in the Inland Empire. But what he's doing for these young people out here is truly amazing. They're teaching kids how to produce their own music. They're teaching them how to play instruments. Some of them come from low-income homes. And so, when you think of like the violin, for example, or the cello, you think of this upper echelon type of musicianship that our kids in these impoverished areas don't have access to. And so organizations like Music Changing Lives is providing that outlet for them to be exposed to a genre of music that they would otherwise not be exposed to. They're giving children who are, aspire to be rappers, they're giving them that platform to rap, but they're also mentoring them, saying, hey, you don't need to rap about guns and sex and violence and drugs. You can rap about, getting an A on your on your geometry test. You can rap about what you're doing in the garden in your local community to help, with the food deserts. They have a garden in San Bernardino, a community garden. And so they're going out and teaching the kids how to propagate plants in order to, multiply their harvest once the fruit comes in and the vegetables come in. And so I think it's important that we identify the importance of the arts, of music, of that creative like juices, and get those going in our children. And I think when we do that, we help our children to become well-rounded individuals. You know, I had my children in violin and cello, and they absolutely love it. My baby, she likes to tinker around on her, play piano. My husband and I, we're practicing and learning how to play guitar and bass guitar. You know, even at our age, like, it's never too late to learn something new. It's never too late to expose our children to something new so that it changes the trajectory of their future for the better. And with the school to prison pipeline, there's so many organizations. Another one out here is SBX Youth and Family Services. They're doing so much for the young boys in the schools to ensure that they're off the street. You know, they're tutoring them, they're giving them jobs, to help them to stay occupied and not get into all of what's going on around them in their environment.
Well, we're running out of time here for today's show. We have a minute left. So I'm going to ask you, Marla, can you join us for the second show?
Sure.
Okay, great. So we want to encourage you to write in your questions. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter at Patty Maria McGee. We also have the website, pattymariamcgee.com. You can leave your comments or your questions there. We are going to wrap up this half hour and we are going to be back for our next show in 1 minute.